Isn't it nice to be real instead of religious? I mean real, just to be real and get on with this thing of living and find out what it's about, you know. And, okay. Is this on? We're on? And you didn't tell me? I didn't say hello? Wow. Okay, good morning. Whatever time it is, welcome to Christian Village Church. And we're going to do a study this morning with Jesus. We've gotten to the point in the life of Jesus Christ where it's gotten very difficult, and he's on the verge of this crucifixion thing. It's on page 805 in those little Bibles that you have, where it starts. It's Matthew 26, verse 69 for the rest of you. And I've handed out some little notes here, that study notes, to hopefully help you along with trying to come to grips with this. Let's reach a conclusion about something here. I mean, this thing, Matthew 26, verse 69, starts off that Peter sat without in the palace, and a damsel came unto him, saying, "You were with Jesus of Galilee." You know, Jesus is inside getting beat up and on trial and all of this business. Do you know how many Bibles are taken and written and changed? This book says Bible because there is magic connected with it, if you would. There is something very strange connected with it, in that the stories are written so that they can retain the same mystical truth no matter how many times they're changed. Bibles are changed. Anything that's on a paper that's written is changed. This has been in the hands of thousands of people, of different organizations. You can see, you can go out in the store and find some revised Bibles. They've revised them. They've changed them. There's the new revised international version. That means it's different. There's this change and that change and the other change. The people of the East who write these things and who wrote these things actually put them in story form. The stories do not mean what they say. Otherwise, it's a history book. It has nothing to do with Bible. They wrote these things as stories, and only those who approach mystically and spiritually will understand. So what you look at as a very plain account of what's going on is not. It's mystically done so that it cannot, the heart of it cannot be changed. And if somebody says, well, Peter, as it says here in verse 69, Peter sat without in the palace. So then what you see is he's out in a courtyard somewhere. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that. And it's irrelevant for it to be in such a mystical, spiritual type of connotation as a Bible, unless it has something spiritual to say, and the Bible confirms all the way through that. So let's look at what we're talking about, what the Bible is trying to convey to you, what it means to you. Matthew 26, 69. Now Peter sat without in the palace, and a damsel came, saying, "You were also with Jesus of Galilee." Peter does not represent, anything here, but you and me. One who follows Jesus religiously. Follows Jesus religiously, but really doesn't understand the heart of what this Christ is. What does it mean? And during the dark time is really separated. Doesn't want to get that closely involved. Isn't too sure. The part of the mind that declares allegiance to Jesus, but in a dark period, it's gone. See, I'm not sure. Oh no, I don't want to say that I was the one who was doing this. So this is the follower. It's an outward follower. It's what all of us have been involved in religion. We go to church, we got bumper stickers, we got Bibles, we send money, the bells ring in the steeple, there's big buildings, they have stained glass, people get robes on, they have candles, all of this kind of stuff, which means you identify yourself with a group. But when it comes down to you as an individual, no. You don't want to get too close. And so what you have is Peter is the one who follows. That's the principle of the lower mind. Okay? Yeah, sure, everybody loves Jesus, but I mean, don't get me too close. I don't want to get involved in that, spiritual stuff. Now we have the damsel that comes. She's the feminine part, and she represents the emotions. Okay? She represents the emotions. And notice something And this is where you start to get into, and I'm going to show you something. Before you get out of here this morning, I'm going to show you a graphic error in the Bible. Where, you've heard people say, the Bible is the unearned Word of God. I believe everything word for word. I will show you proof of a serious mistake in the Bible this morning before you leave. But notice something here as it tries to describe to you mystically. Peter sat without in the palace. Okay? When you begin to understand things spiritually and mystically, you look beyond the words to the truth. What you will see, if you see a recreation of the story, is always you'll see Peter sitting out in a courtyard and a girl coming up and speaking to him. It's not what it said here. Remember what Jesus says, unto you is given to know the secrets of the kingdom, but to them who are without, all things are parables. When you are without, it doesn't mean you're sitting outside of a building. It means you are outside of the context of the deep aspects of meditation. And it doesn't mean you have to be in this building, in this church, to be in the deep aspects of meditation. Wherever you be, you can carry it with you. When you are deep within yourself and you have raised yourself above the thoughts of the lower mind, you are within. When you are dwelling in the carnal mind, trying to figure things out, trying to chart your own course, you are without. And notice something here. He's outside. In other words, he is not into that which is Christ consciousness. He is not with Christ. He has separated himself from Christ, and he's in the palace, the place of the material realm. He's in the place of the material realm. Everybody who walks in the realm of religion today is outside in the palace, working in the material realm. How do you think these guys can come on television and say, send us your Visa or MasterCard or whatever, give us and all this stuff, send us $1,000 and we'll get you healed? And all of this garbage that they put forth on television, they are all outside in the palace. They are deep in the material realm. They are deep in the system. They are deep in the rules and regulations of the system. They are outside and away from that which is the inner temple of Christ. And that's what's being told to you here. So it's not anything to do with a guy named Peter who's sitting in a courtyard. It has to do with that which is the lower part of your mind, which is in conflict with your own emotions. You are outside of the realm of the consciousness, the higher realms of consciousness, which is Christ, and you are deep in the material realm. And that's why I gave you those little charts to follow. And what happens when the dark time of the soul is upon us? When we are sitting by ourselves, when we are not near that which is the right hemisphere of the brain, when we are not taking that which is the creative aspect, when we are not thinking laterally, but we're thinking vertically, she comes. The emotions start to question us. And the emotions start to come to you to confuse you and put you on the defensive as to what you're doing. The confusion always comes from the emotions. So the question is, here, look what it says here in verse 69. You were with Jesus of Galilee. That word Galilee, if you look on that chart, means the advanced state of consciousness. The advanced state of consciousness. And what's happening here is the emotions are trying to pull you away. Because now there's something being said here. And it comes from your family, it comes from your friends, it comes from organized religion. Oh, did you go down there? You were down there with those people. You were don't get involved in that. And then what will you say? Oh no, I never took that seriously. No, I didn't. No, not me. I don't believe all of that stuff. There you go. You see? It's exact. When you've done that, you're Peter without in the palace. You're totally afraid to say, most people that say, hey, I can understand. They come up here and look around. Is anybody looking to see where they're going? In this door, coming down here. God. And especially here. I mean, in New York, we get a lot of calls. People, want us to come up to New York and have meetings in New York and all of this kind of stuff. Because New York is New York, People are open. It doesn't make any difference because everybody says anything. Lunatics, hey, it's great. Why not? Yeah. But here, everybody, Baptist and Methodist and Catholic and all of the religions, and you come right, and we're right in the middle of this would be like setting up, the NAACP in the middle of a Ku Klux Klan rally. It's exactly what we're doing here. What is he doing? And so all of you have that come up to you, and not only does it come up to you from other people, it comes up in here. Your own mind says, what the heck are you doing? You're down here sitting on the floor on a Tuesday night. This guy's playing these crazy songs over the thing, screaming, bells are ringing, and you're sitting there. What the heck? And then it starts to say to you, well, yeah, maybe I'm not, you know. And then you get, oh, you know, and since I've been doing that, I haven't been feeling so good, you know. I got indigestion. Doesn't have anything to do with the lasagna that your wife made. It's all blame it on meditation. Must be the meditation. It couldn't be that. It could be the cookies and cream ice cream that you eat at 3 o'clock in the morning. It has nothing to do with that. You always find that you blame it on this, you see. And so the emotions come to you. They put you in a state of confusion. And then the connotation from the emotions is, you were the one that was doing this. This is evil. There's something wrong. And so you try to, you know, take a look and say, no, it wasn't me. Let me show you a little bit about how things are done in mysticism in the Bible, how the ancients wrote these things. There is an Eastern allegorical technique of repeating the story, repeating the same story the number of times to numerically define the purpose, which sounds like a lot of stuff. And let me show you what I'm talking about. When Jesus talks about sacrificing the 5 senses, okay, the 5 senses are 5 senses. The 5 senses are sight, taste, touch, smell, hearing. You've got to cut them off. You cut them off in meditation. When you come into meditation and you finally shut down the thoughts of the mind, you rise up into the pineal gland, which opens the right hemisphere of the brain, and you go up into what is called nirvana, and then you start to enter into a bliss which is separated from the 5 senses. You override the 5 senses. That's the crucifixion. That's why Jesus took the 5 wounds of the hands, feet, and side. It was the 5 wounds. Okay, all of this is done to fulfill the mystical value of the number 5 in mysticism, which is sacrifice. Okay, let me show you something. Go to page 782, and I'll show you about when Jesus talks about this sacrifice. For the rest of you, Matthew 6, page 782. Let me show you how this works when you're talking about sacrificing the 5 senses and how it is transmitted to you in the Bible in code. It's done in code. It's a, you know, we talked about cosmic sex last week. This is a cosmic code, and this is how it's done. And it's always done this way, and it's a vital part of the Eastern way of writing in spiritual terms or in mystical terms. Page 782, Matthew 6:25. Okay, Jesus is going to talk about this sacrifice of the 5 senses. Matthew 6:25, he says, therefore, take no thought for your life, number 1. Matthew 6:27, which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit? Number 2. Matthew 6:28, why take thought for raiment? Number 3. Matthew 6:31, therefore take no thought, saying, what shall we eat? Number 4. Matthew 6:34, therefore take no thought for the morrow. Number 5. Notice that the subject is repeated the same number of times, so it adds up to the number that it represents numerically. So he'll say, take no thought 5 times. This is an Eastern way of writing, and you'll find it consistently throughout the Bible. It's always done. That's the way they wrote. That's the way the mystics wrote. Eastern. You know, we were talking the other evening, and let me just digress for a moment to show you, so, you know, while it just popped into my mind, and if I'm to tell you this. But recently we've been seeing a lot of sightings from the Catholic side of the Virgin Mary, okay? And a lot of people, you know, oh, these people are nuts or whatever. She's going to appear in the Meadowlands, and she's appearing in Middletown, and all of these things, following Bruce Springsteen and all of this kind of stuff. What you're actually seeing here is not foolishness at all. What you're seeing is the New Age. And basically what is happening is there is a return to the feminine principle of God, the spiritual principle of God. The feminine, this is part of the woman's movement. It's started years ago. It's all part of this New Age. What these people are feeling within themselves is the manifestation of that feminine spirit. In Catholicism, they refer to it as Mary. Protestantism, it's the Holy Spirit, and other aspects of different religions. But it's all happening at this time. Nobody has seen a physical woman because that's not what it is. Jesus says the kingdom doesn't come in ways to be seen. But they have this feeling within them, and for those who see mystically with the single eye, they'll have a vision. You'll never see it. But that, I want you to understand what's happening here, and that is a return of the feminine principle of God. And it lines up with the with the New Age, which is Uranus and Gaia coming back to embrace, and this whole thing. The wreck of religion has been ripping the feminine part out. You know, women can't do this, women can't do that, because they had no understanding of the feminine principle of God, which is spirit. But now, this return of it is what you see. So if somebody in the Catholic faith starts to feel this return in the New Age, how are they going to identify it? The feminine principle? Mary. And so they'll start seeing Mary. And so you'll see it in different ways, but it's that same principle. And that is another thing to look at when you're looking at the New Age, okay? So we looked at the five senses here and how Jesus says, take no thought. Now, let me show you where this came from. Take no thought, you saw it 5 times. That was the crucifixion of the 5 senses so that you can raise yourself back up into a oneness with God. Let me show you where the 5 played into the 4, which is in Isaiah chapter 14 on page 588. Okay? Isaiah chapter 4. I'm just trying to show you how you look at the Bible, how you begin to understand the Bible, and how you realize the code that it's written in. So, because what's it talking about? It's not talking about Peter. It's not talking about Isaiah. It's not talking about 5. It's talking all about those things which happen inside of the brain. In other words, you cannot become spiritual until what happens? Until beta starts to kick down and your brain rhythms start to move you into alpha. You cross alpha into the right side of the brain, you go into theta, and then you go to delta. When you go to delta, you just fly away into God knows where. You go all the way from 28 cycles per second down to 4 cycles per second as you move from theta down to delta. You cannot become spiritual if your brain waves, if the cycles are in theta. You can't, because that's what we're doing right now. We're in theta. But as you go into meditation, which is the only way this can be done, you start to bring down those cycles per second down to about 13, and your brain waves start to move into alpha, and then you start to get into that which is called spiritual. It all has to do with electrical aspects of the brain. And so you put names and words on it. But all of these names and words mean nothing more than the cycles per second that operate inside of the brain that will bring your consciousness from that which is physical, material consciousness, and swing it over to that which is a mystical, spiritual consciousness. The creative side. You have spent your life thinking vertically. You now have got to start training yourself to think laterally. You've got to open yourself to the right hemisphere, which is the creative side. And that happens when you go into meditation and you start bringing the cycles per second down from their 23 or 24 down to about 13. And then as you go deeper into meditation, you cross into the right side. You go from alpha into what they call beta. Okay? The reason that I'm trying to tell you that is because when you see all of these various stories, you're trying to say, well, you know, what the heck are they for? Right, you have a right to say that. You read the Bible. What are these stories? Don't mean anything to you. It's ridiculous. None of this stuff means anything to you. What's this going to do? Jesus said, take no thought, and the guy was sitting out in the courtyard, and the girl came, and the guy's going to come and take away your car, repossess your car, or you're about ready to lose your job, or you're going on strike, or somebody just got a word from the doctor, there's cancer, whatever. So what does all this mean to you? Who cares about all of this? I don't have time for this. But when you start to understand and break through the code and realize that it's talking about electrical cycles in the brain, that when you realize how to use them, you kick in that which is healing power, you kick in that which is living power, then you say, okay, let me understand the code. So we showed you about taking the crucifixion of the 5 senses, shutting down the aspects of the mind. Where did that come from? What was the problem? On page 588 in Isaiah chapter 14, I'll show you the 5 again. Here it comes in verse 12. How are you fallen from heaven, O Lucifer? Okay, Lucifer is not a person. Lucifer, the word Lucifer means bright star. And the reason that it's a bright star is, and the use of the word Lucifer is there are 5 points. Whoops, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's why the word Lucifer, because those 5 points represent sight, taste, touch, smell, hearing. The same as the 5 wounds that Jesus took. That's what Lucifer means, bright star. Now watch what happens to the bright star. Isaiah 14:12, how you are fallen, O Lucifer. Now look at Isaiah 14:13. You said, I will ascend. Number 1. Okay, I will exalt. Number 2. I will sit. Number 3. Go to 14:14. I will ascend. Number 4. I will be like the Most High. Number 5. Do you see it? Okay, there is the fall of the five senses from the higher mind, the divine mind, to the lower mind. Then Jesus says, take no thought, take no thought, take no thought, take no thought, take no thought. There's the crucifixion for the ascension of those five senses. So what we have found is that the desire to have our own way, desire for the things in the lower, are the five I wills of Lucifer, which cause us all the sicknesses and all the troubles in our family and the falling from the higher mind, and then the crucifixion of the meditation of Jesus of take no thought, take no thought, take no thought, take no thought. In other words, the five take no thoughts of Jesus overwhelm the five I wills of that which is Lucifer, and that which has been plunged to the bottom can now rise up. That which is the star which has fallen, O star of the morning, is now the bright and shining rising star of Christ. But it all has to do in here. Okay? When the five senses pull us down, then the five take no thoughts of the meditation raises us up. So you see how in Eastern expression they counterbalance, or they use these repeating effects of making a statement a number of times that will add up to the numerical value. But here in the story that we're at with Peter, which is in Matthew 26 on page 805, we have something that's going to happen 3 times. Okay? Now let's look, page 805, and let's look at what happens. And the number 3 means new life, resurrection. That's why Jonah was in the whale 3 days. That's why Jesus was in the tomb 3 days. But what is the important part of this? Okay? Jesus is crucified. That means that the crucifixion of that which was the flesh will rise in 3 days. Now here's the important thing. And this is what I want to throw at you as these things come along. I remember them. Jesus says, in 3 days I will resurrect. In the Bible, 1 day is like 1,000 years. This is Sunday morning. This is the morning of that 3,000th year. This is why all of the things have happened all over the world. This is why you feel the way you do inside, the individual need to resurrect, to rise. This is why the stone which is blocking your way from that which is the right hemisphere is being rolled away. And this is the 3rd day. This is the resurrection of Christ from the tomb of the lower, which is the place of the solar plexus, up to that which is of the pineal gland, where he sits at the right hand of the Father. Remember what this is all about. This is the sun in the sky. On December the 21st, it goes through the constellation Crux. It's crucified. December 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, it sits in the bowels of the earth at the winter solstice. On December the 25th, by the trajectory of the earth, the sun is born. God's only begotten Son, the sun in the sky, which shines and gives you suntan and sunburn and all other kind of stuff, and you ever use it, that sun is born every year since the beginning of time on December the 25th. And it rises up, and in the spring of the year impacts on the Aries, the ram, which is the burnt offering, and then sits in the northern hemisphere, the eastern sky, at the right hand of the Father, and summer comes. That's what this is all about. And so then here we look at the place of the sun, right in the center of your tummy. There's a place called the solar plexus. And when through the meditation which Jesus is talking about, that starts to rise, that sun starts to rise out of the virgin consciousness, it impacts on the pineal gland, which is Aries, sits at the right hand, the right hemisphere of the brain begins to operate, and summer comes to your life. The winter of the soul is over, and summer comes back to your life. And it's all up to you simply to let it happen. How? By reading? No. By donating? No. By going to church? No. By becoming religious? No. By how? By sitting on the floor and waiting and watching and listening within yourself. And it happens. Just the way Jesus said it would happen. So, what we want to look here is the number 3. Back to Matthew 26 and verse 69, the way this is being described by Peter. Matthew 26:69. Now look at this. Verse 70. First of all, Matthew 26:69. You were with Jesus of Galilee. Now we're looking for the number 3 here, which is new life. But he denied. I don't know what you're saying. There's denial number 1. You see that, verse 70? Okay, now look at verse 71. Another one comes. You were with this fellow, was with Jesus of Nazareth. Look at verse 72. And again he denied. I don't know the man. That's number 2. We got the second denial, okay? And after a while came by him and stood by and said, surely you are the one. Then he, in verse 74, began to curse and said, I don't know what the heck you're talking about.
Get out of here. You're full of, I don't know this guy. Get out. I don't know what this, not me. What do you got the wrong guy? It was, I think it was him. I look a lot like him. I got a brother. I don't know. See, freaking out, just like we all do. And then when we've reached that bottom, that's why you're sitting here, because each of you has sat without, each of you have denied, and then you've come to the bottom. Whether your family relations have come to the bottom, your physical relations have come to the bottom, something within you has come to the bottom, and when you have made that denial for the third time, then what happens? What's it say happens in here in 74? Immediately the cock crew. That means the darkness is over, the sun will come out, and you'll be back in the arms of Christ. Right? You see, once we let it ride to that point where we can't any longer take it, when we have said as much that is negative as we can say, when we have tried, we have separated ourselves from this, which is the holy place, then when we have gone to the point where we just give up, the sun comes out. Cock-a-doodle-doo! Was that what they say? I guess cock-a-doodle-doo. I don't know what they say. Whatever they say. Buck, 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 3 times. And you see, let me show you something real quick. You're in Matthew 26. Let me show you. This is the 3. See, this is the negative aspect of the 3 that explodes in new life, because we all have to go through that. Let me tell you something. If I could go to each of your houses and put some kind of a chain around your neck and bring you here on Tuesday night, I would. The most important part of what happens here is on Tuesday night. But I am always afraid, oh my God, I don't want to be bothering people. I don't want to push on people. I don't want to make people think like, but this magic happens here on that night as the vibrations and those impulses start to rise out of here. And I just pray that you'll start to understand the value of this. Because I could tell anybody here, when you were coming, think of your life. When you stopped, what went wrong? You don't understand what happens in this room when that door is closed. And this meditation just takes off and just surrounds and heals and makes right and changes things. Go to, you're on page 805. Stay right where you're on 805. But let me show you something. Matthew 20, this is Jesus Christ when he was in this Gethsemane thing. I just showed you the new life as it came to Peter. 3 times he said no. And then the sun came out. Right? Look at Jesus when he came and he says in Matthew 26, verse 39, Jesus is praying in Gethsemane. And he says, let this pass from me. Verse 39, Matthew 26. That's number 1. Number 2. Verse 42, Father, accept this pass from me. Accept thy drink it, thy will be done. That's second. Matthew 44, and he left them and went away and prayed the 3rd time. Do you see? It was very, very important for them to say in that writing, he prayed the 3rd time, because they're sharing with you this is going to be something special. There's going to be a resurrection. There's going to be a new life. See, it's a coded way of speaking to you. It's the same way. It's just exactly the same as when you understand the number 9 being the number of human consciousness. And when you see in the Bible the sign of the beast is 666, what the ancients did, you take 6 plus 6 plus 6 equals 1, 8. 1 plus 8 equals 9. The beast is you. Your consciousness. And in the very next verse in the Bible, 144,000 are saved. 1 plus 4 plus 4 equals 9. Salvation is you in the higher consciousness. The beast is you in the lower consciousness. Let me just show you something. You're in Matthew. Go to the book of John. Somebody tell me where John 21 is, okay, real quick. Just want to show people something. John chapter 21. Just yell out what page it's on. 886. I want to show you something. Go to John 21, verse 6. Did you find that? What is Jesus down there saying? Cast the net on the right side of the ship and you shall find. What is he, a magician? He could get a job down at Harrah's, or someplace like that at a show. What is this? You're going to, hey, throw your net on the right side and I'll show you how to find. Has nothing to do with that. He's saying, cast your energy to the right hemisphere and you shall find. How do I know that he wasn't talking about fish? How do I know he wasn't talking about a ship? Where is the code in the Bible that will say to me, hey, this has nothing to do with fish. This has nothing to do with water. This has nothing to do with a boat. Go to John, go to John chapter, right where you are, verse 11, okay? John chapter 21, verse 11. Simon Peter went up, drew the net to land full of great fish. Now tell me, how many fish did he catch? 153. 1 plus 5 plus 3, 9. That's how you know. And it happens that way throughout the entire Bible. Whether they talk in cubits or whatever they talk, which is 18 inches, it all comes out to 9. And that's how you know. I mean, do you really think they caught? Is it important for them to put in the book? Have you ever saw it? They counted these fish before they put it in. Well, I'm writing the Bible here, you know. For God's sake, tell you how many fish. Oh, jeez, I got to get that right. It's important, you know. These people are going to church. Baptists are going to read this. Well, how many have I got? 109. He's saying, cast your energy to the right side, and you'll find. And what are fish? What'd your mother tell you fish are? Brain food. Cast your net to the right side. Starts it. Okay, so you have the number 3. And remember something as we start to wrap this down. This denial is your denial. Your mind accuses you. Your emotions accuse you. Things have gone wrong. And you'll start to blame it on the meditation. The reality of our psychic parts are played out in 3s. Judas betrayed Jesus, right? For 30 pieces of silver. The 30 pieces of silver, that word silver in mysticism means the emotions. And where do the 30 pieces come from? In the zodiac, every sign has what they call 3 decans. There's 30 degrees in each sign of the zodiac. 12 signs, 30 degrees, 360 degrees. Each sign has 3 decans. And you can see them. In fact, we have charts that I can let you look at. But the 3 signs of Judas are actually the 30 degrees of Scorpio. And that's the 30 pieces of silver. And so what happens? He betrays him for the 30 pieces of silver. But what happens here now is you're not betraying anybody. This isn't a betrayal that Peter was involved in. This is a denial. See, the betrayal, Jesus ordained it. Judas didn't do anything wrong. Judas played the part. This is part of the story. The people that nailed Jesus to the cross in this story are acting in his will. You see, if you'll notice, if you read the Last Supper, it wasn't that Jesus got up and said, hey, here's the rascal right over there. This is the guy that's doing this. Take him, men. He didn't say that. He said, the one who's going to do this is the one to whom I give the sop. And he takes sop. You take a little piece of bread and you dip it in gravy. You know what sop means? Asking for a favor. Look it up in Webster's dictionary. It is asking for a favor for someone in authority. Judas was in authority. Do you know the only person that Jesus could trust in that whole mob of 12? Judas. That's why he made him the treasurer. He said, he'll do it. And right there, Judas knew this was necessary. What he was doing was simply metaphysically telling you a story. That you yourself have to betray the flesh, your own body, your own mind. You have to see that it's killed in meditation so that that which is the Christ can rise. Given the sop means asking for a favor from somebody who can be trusted. Look up the word SOP when you get home. Not SOB, SOP when you get home. Look it up in Webster's dictionary and you'll find out. But this wasn't the betrayal. The denial is the fear of associating with Jesus. I'm not really into that. Began to curse and swear. That was the third denial. And when you reach that third denial, you've reached the bottom, and that's when the cock crows, the darkness is over. So you failed. Yes, you failed the encounter during the dark time of your soul, but that is when the sun bursts forth. That's the only reason most of you are sitting here, because you can't take that stuff out there anymore. You really can't. I mean, you've gone to church all of your life, and they've said to you, give the money, sing the songs, read the Bible, and then after you die, you're going to have nice things. What a deal this is. What a deal. Imagine after you die. Can you wait for that? I just can't. Forget that. I like Reverend Ike. I want my chocolate sauce now on my ice cream. I don't want any of this. Don't tell me any of this after my... I always say to people, hey, I got a 1993 Cadillac Eldorado. Everything fully equipped, and it's yours for $25 a month. The only catch is you pick it up after you die. All right. Oh, great. Okay. Let's have that. Sure. You laugh about that, but you go to church. Yes, sir. This is mine. I'm saved. You're saved from what? When do you pick up your saved button? After you die. All right. Let's go. I want to get involved with this religion. I think this is great. But you know the amazing thing? We got educated people that have bought this. They go in these places and they sit and shut up, and they know and after they die they're going to pick up their button. Jesus. But look what happened in Matthew 26, verse 75. Okay? After the son comes out, Peter remembered that he would betray him 3 times. He wept bitterly. See, this is when the emotions are poured. This is when you come in. This is when you come in the meditation and you just let it out. You let all of your emotions out. You let all of those feelings out, all of those hurts out. And then in Matthew 27, verse 1, we'll be done with this in a minute. When the morning came, all the chief priests and the elders took counsel against it. Who was it? Was it the cops? Was it the army? The generals? No. Who was it that got together? So we got to get a meeting and knock this guy off. The chief priest and the elders of the church. It's always them. It's always them, isn't it? Who is it that comes against you? Yeah, listen, this is the Bible. They believe every word of it. It's the religious people that killed them. Wasn't the law, wasn't the government, wasn't the police. It was the religious people. And they took counsel, they got together, they became a group. Literally, they all decided they were going to think the same way, and that's what they do today. They make doctrines, and they make rules, and they make regulations, and all of these things. And what is it for? To kill that which is the Christ out of you. Kill that which is... They want to make you into a good, whatever their denomination is. They don't want you to be free. They don't want you to be free as an individual. They don't want to express that uniqueness that is you. So, if you ask people, and what do these people in this church think? I have no idea what they think. Everybody in here thinks different because everybody in here is an individual. Everybody in here is free to act out their own unique way and to allow themselves to be the very best that they can be based on what they are, their unique personality, not to become like somebody else. So the teachings of Jesus are put to death. They're not allowed. And look at Matthew 27, too. When they had bound him, they led him away to be delivered to Pontius Pilate, the governor. You've been listening to me for about a half hour, and you should understand what is being said to you. When they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate. Watch. Religion binds God. It prevents his power and love from flowing, and it then turns the personality of Christ totally over to the lower mind, which is Pilate. Once you have inside of you that door is closed, the Christ is not allowed to touch you because you've never been able to tell that by meditation, by entering into the higher realms of consciousness, you'd have an encounter with Christ. They say that's evil. So they bound Christ. He can't touch you. You can't touch him. And what do? They turn him, that which is the spiritual aspect of your life, over to Pilate, over to that which is the lower, over to that which is the law. The priests and the ministers and the rabbis, they'll decide for you. They'll think for you. They'll tell you what to read. They'll tell you what not to read. They'll tell you where to go. You should tell them where to go. Because you've got to be free. You've got to be allowed to express yourself. And what I say to you, it's very important for you to do. Think of every book that they told you not to read, and tomorrow run down and get them by law. Read them. Because once somebody tells you don't do it, there's a reason that they're telling you not to do it. Not because they're concerned about you, they're concerned about your allegiance to them. Say, do it. And then it says in verse 3, I told you about at 27 verse 3, Judas, which had betrayed him, repented. What did he get? 30 pieces of silver. What does that mean? What did Judas get? For turning, this is what you're going to get. For turning yourself off from Jesus Christ, you know what you're going to get? You're going to get 30 pieces of silver. You know what you're going to get? You're going to get from the religious people something to feed your emotions. You're going to get the 30 degrees of Scorpio to feed your ego, to feed your pride, to feed your traditions. And that's what you're getting. And you know what Judas did? When Judas found, finally, that it was at the expense of the Christ being killed out within him. He took it and he said, here, take this and stick it. I don't want any part of it. He threw it on the floor. That's why you're sitting here looking at the screwball today, because you've taken that 30 pieces and you've gone back to all of those religious people that tried to beg your emotions, beg your ego, beg your pride, and you said, you've killed the Christ out in me, and I don't want this. I don't want this religion. I don't want this denomination. I don't want this tradition. Here, take it back. Now, if you get a chance, you look at the 3 decans of Scorpio, and you'll see the 30 degrees. And then we cast down our emotions. We throw it back to them. That's why you're here, because each one of you have taken that silver that religion gave you, and you threw it back, and you said, I don't want it anymore. And then what happens? It says in Matthew 27:5, and then it says he cast down the pieces, and he went out and he hanged himself. There's a very important part here, mystically, as we wrap this up. He hung himself. The neck is the bridge from the lower to the higher. Okay? The neck is always mystically the bridge from the lower flesh to the higher mind. And what we have done, we have gone down into the lower where we have been hurt by religion. We now ascend back up to the higher, and we take that which is the bridge and we choke it off, never again to allow that which was the lower to come up and pollute that which is the higher. So that hanging by the neck is a symbol of choking off that bridge so that we can no longer be infected. So what Judas did is that's nothing to do with a guy named Judas. It's talking about you. It's talking about me. It's saying that once we have given back everything that religion has given for us and said we don't want it anymore, we take that which is the bridge between our physical and that which is our spiritual, that which is the lower carnal and that which is the religious and that which is the divine, and we choke it off and we put a rope around it spiritually so that no longer can it come up and stain that which is the holy place. And then look what they did in verse 27. They took the money and they buried it in a place called Potter's Field. You know what that means? Did you ever hear religious people say, well, once you walk away from this, you're like dead to us. I can't have you as part of our family anymore. Why, you and your father, we did everything for you. And look what you've done to us. You've gone and you joined with that crazy bunch. We don't even think you're alive, and that's exactly what that means. Once you turn your back on them, once you take their silver and say, here, once you choke them off, as far as they're concerned, they put you in Potter's Field. They don't even know you're alive. You're dead. In this places, there's some religions where you can't even, they really do. You're dead. It's over. Now, read with me. I'm done, but read with me. I want to show you a biblical error. So no longer will you ever be able to say the Bible has no errors in it. I'll show you one. Matthew 27, verse 9. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet. That's Jeremiah. And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, whom they of children of Israel did value. They gave him the Potter's Field. That was fulfilled that which was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. Would you turn to page 769 of your Bible? The rest of you go to the book of Zechariah, chapter 11. Chapter 11. Where it says it was fulfilled what was spoken of the prophet Jeremiah, somebody made a mistake. It was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Zechariah. And if you look at Zechariah chapter 11, verse 12, and I said unto you, think, give me the price, and if not, so forbear. So they weighed for my price 30 pieces of silver. And the Lord said, it's a goodly price, and I took the 30 pieces and cast them to the potter. You see, that's the thing of the potter's field. Then I cut asunder my other staff, even bands, that I might break the brotherhood between Judah and Israel. In other words, what he's saying, I have done this to break that which is the band between my spirit and that which is my flesh, the flesh being Israel, Judah being my spirit. And that's exactly what Judas did. He gave it back, and he hung so that there could no longer be a connection between that which is the lower and the higher. And so when they say that it is the prophet Jeremiah, it was not, it was the prophet Zechariah. And that is interesting, but, you know,
thousands of things like that in the Bible. Many, many people who have sought to change it and turn it. And that's why the people who wrote the Bible in mysticism, and God ordained it this way, wrote it in story form. And once you begin to, into meditation, understand that which is the divine realms within you, you can break right through the code. If I say to you, let's go shoot the bull, and you go get a gun, then you don't understand your English language, do you? If I say to you, Cindy here is 3 sheets to the wind, and you go get her a pillow and a blanket, then you don't understand. And if I say Paul spilled the beans and you get a broom, then you have to study. This is symbolic language. This Bible is totally filled with it. It's written that way. And in that way, when people start to change it, just like today, they're not going to change. Why would they change the story of a guy sitting out denying somebody 3 times, sitting out in the courtyard? Who cares? But everything is contained within there once you get beyond the words into the spirit to realize, hey, something is being told. That's why it says B-I-B-L-E on the front of this book and not history book. Okay? Amen. Thank you for being